Hello and welcome to a special episode of Rogue Legacy. So, what is this episode about? Well, this episode is dedicated to the fact that you might notice that the episode itself is longer than 15 minutes. Recently on the PS4, the Share Factory actually made it so that now you can upload 40-minute videos. And I am very thankful for that, because now I'm going to start uploading 30-minute videos. However, that will have to come after Shovel Knight, because I actually just finished recording that today. And I didn't realize that until I had completely uploaded and made the videos for Shovel Knight. So unfortunately, that's not going to really... I kind of dropped the ball on that, because I really do want to make 30-minute videos. That's why I upload 2 videos a day. And now that I can upload 30-minute videos, I'm probably only going to upload 1 video a day, because that's the kind of content I just kind of want to create. Anyway, what is special about, other than that, the actual content of this episode is going to come to put it simply, I wanted to talk about good boss design, bad boss design, and just kind of design in general. And I was going to use Alexander's boss fight as an example. And you might be wondering how or where or what the hell is going on. Well, as I was exploring the castle off camera, I found these little O-balls that said that whenever you walked back into the castle, I actually had to look it up because I didn't know what the little O-balls did. I just gave it to Chiron and he was like, oh, this is interesting. And then he took it and he left. Anyway, when you're exploring the castle, you will find small O-balls or like little coins or whatever. And they will open up old boss fights that you've already beaten, and they will allow you to take on a challenge version of them. And at first, I'm not going to lie, I thought that was very interesting. You know, that's kind of cool. Let's go see what kind of crazy-ass things these bosses have designed. And I came in with just a childish, glee at first. And that glee turned into absolute rage and hate around Alexander's boss fight. I fucking hate his this challenge version. And you know what? I'm not even going to call it a challenge. I'm not going to dignify it by calling it a challenge. This isn't a challenge. At this point, this is a rage game. And that's all it is. And I'm going to explain to you why I find this not to be a challenge and this fight to be more of a rage game than anything. So, let us start. What is one thing about this fight that makes it like that? Well, if you possibly haven't already noticed about the challenge itself, I call it that grudgingly, there are a shit ton of spikes in the room. Literally everywhere, and you have to stand on these platforms to fight Alexander. And to be honest, the spikes piss me off a lot. But the reason why they piss me off is because how the game has treated spikes up until this point. Spikes have been treated, I want to say, with respect. Whenever you hit an enemy onto spikes anywhere in the game, you can look up my gameplay, you can look at other people's gameplay, but if anything touches a spike, if it's you or an enemy, it gets damaged. And that's something I really like about the game, is it's fair because of that. This challenge throws that completely out the window, as Alexander no longer gets affected by spikes. And that's something in boss fights that I just hate. When the environment itself doesn't do a goddamn thing to the boss, and the boss can freely move and do whatever it wants. That is something I greatly dislike in boss fights. Because it just makes it less about trying to control the boss in ways, and it's just about just being a detriment to the player. Because at what point can you really control this boss in any way with the environments made like this? You can't. It's just luck. Hoping that he will somehow spin in a circle into a corner or something, and you'll be able to hit him for a lot when he's not able to move. And some people might call that skill. I call that luck, because that's all it is. Hopefully he stays in the corner long enough, and I can do damage. That's all it is. So, one thing that would have made me a little less enraged about this is actually making this anything but spikes. I would have taken a pillar of fire. Hell, I would have taken the room completely on fire. Because if you look at the boss for even 2.5 seconds, you know Alexander is a flame skeleton head. He's a flame skeleton head. I almost said flame skeleton. He's not a flame skeleton. He's a flame skeleton head. Anyway, how many times can I say the words flame skeleton? Anyway, you notice that he's a flame skeleton head, and he's on fire. I would have easily accepted the fact that the reason why he is unaffected by, like, the environment around him is the fact that he is already on fire. So, going through flame pillars not affecting him would have made complete sense to me. But that's not what's happening. It's spikes. And that really, really rubs me the wrong way, because it just shows that there was a possible laziness from the developers. And that's not something I want to say, because this is an indie company, and it's not like they have a shit ton of money to be throwing around and doing stuff. But if you're going to make a boss fight like this, you have to put forth the effort to make it make sense, which this boss fight doesn't, because it's just a challenge. And I can hear some people being, well, it's extra content. Why? You can do whatever you want with extra content. Extra content can be as difficult as you want it to be. No, it fucking can't. Extra content, as long as it's designed well and is implemented correctly as far as the gameplay is designed to be, is totally fine. However, this isn't designed at all right, because a lot of this comes down to luck. And I like to think that a lot of this game actually does have skill. Like, in the first bosses, like, if you look at the first Alexander boss fight, the room is big, you have a lot of places to move around, you can control Alexander and a lot of his ads. But with the room so tiny and stuff, all of the skill that goes into this fight is completely gone. It is nothing but luck if you will actually get in a good position or not, because the little fucking skeleton heads, it's actually, I should rephrase that, and it's all completely luck, because it's all based around whether or not the little skeleton heads will spawn at good locations. Which brings me to another thing. Sorry, I'm still sick, so my voice is, I'm still going to be coughing, and I apologize. But there's no way to reliably control the small skeleton heads that spawn, because they spawn more or less whenever the fuck they want. They do whatever. And at first I thought, well, maybe I could control them. Maybe it's a thing of, if I hit him and like 2 or 3 times, then he spawns them and I have to deal with them. No, it's just a small, like, 10-second timer. Maybe not even 10 seconds. Might just be 5 seconds. And do you see how they just fucking surround you and wreck your shit? It's enraging. Anyway, they spawn from him. And occasionally not even from him. They just spawn. So 2 will spawn from his head, and then I want to say another 2 will just appear from off screen and slowly move into frame. Which, once again, just makes the fight about luck and not skill. It's just, there's no controlling the small skeleton heads whatsoever. They just do whatever the hell they want, come in, hit you, and that's it. To be fair, they do heal you, however, they also do 30 damage. And I'm going to do the math really quickly, because that's just one of the things that I'm going to do for the sake of designing. But they do about 32 damage every time they touch you, whether it's their small fireball or the head itself. They do 32 damage. You, after killing them, I'm just, if you notice in the gameplay, I'm just standing still because there's no fucking point in continuing. I hit him like twice and I was down to 40 health. Anyway, I digress. You gain 4 points of health every time you kill a small skeleton head. And 4 MP. I don't know why they even bother giving you MP. I never actually encountered a problem ever about getting low on MP. I don't even think it is a problem ever, in all honesty, because there's no MP item that actually helps you at all during this fight. The teleportation thing is fucking useless. Anyway. Sorry, I needed to cough for a second. Anyway. The small skeleton heads, they have no predictability whatsoever. If it had been a thing of every time you hit the boss, maybe 2 or 3 times that they spawn, then there would have been an element of... Wait, that wasn't what I was talking about. I was talking about how much health. I'm sorry. I got sidetracked. Anyway, you notice that you get 4 pieces of health for killing 1 skeleton head. They do 32. Doing the math, you have to kill 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28, 32. 8 skeleton heads. 8 of the little bastards. To even remotely just cover the same damage that you had. And some of you might be like, that doesn't sound like too many, it's just 8. However, the problem comes in with the random spawning. You don't know when the hell they're gonna be around you. They come off screen, they come on screen. There's just too unpredictable to be able to say that this was designed to be this way. I almost want to say that they didn't fucking playtest it. And once again, I don't want to be saying that because this is an indie company. It's like, man, I don't want to pick on the little guy, but I fucking have to when it's not designed well. And unfortunately, because of this, it made me realize a couple things about the game. And that it's mainly about luck. And I like to imagine most games are, if you're good enough, it's about skill. But this game is almost too much about luck at times. It's whether or not the enemy will actually use its attack or not, whether or not it will spawn an enemy right there. It's just too much about luck and not enough about skill at times. Hell, even just exploring the castle is nothing but trying to find equipment, money, and even health whenever you're low on it. And I do admit, in those respects, those are the greatest strengths of the game, running around, hoping, and trying to get lucky. But boss fights shouldn't be about luck. Boss fights should be a test of a player's skill, and how they are able to manipulate the controls and their understanding of the game, which this doesn't have. Now, I'm going to quickly address my gameplay here really quickly. The main reason you might notice I like to stay to the bottom right corner, it's because the boss occasionally will get stuck in that corner and you can hit him for a shit ton. And I guess that's the skill portion of this fight. I have no idea. And I refuse to look it up because if a player playing your game can't figure it out by not looking it up, or can't figure out some element of your gameplay by not looking it up, it's poorly designed. So if there's some element about this that I wasn't understanding, then it really is kind of a problem with how the developer made it. Anyway, and it's a weird topic that I'm bringing up. Anyway, let's see. So, what does this game turn into whenever it's based off of luck? Like, what does a game turn into whenever you base a lot of things off of, like, well, pure chance, luck, and ideas and stuff? It turns into a rage game. Have any of you that are listening to this ever played I Want to Be the Guy? Anyone who knows, like, I can already hear some people going, oh god, the dark memories of that game. That's because that game is a rage game. It's pretty much completely based around just getting lucky or memorization. And the thing about that game that makes it actually playable is the fact of the memorization. It does throw a lot of bullshit at you. However, it's all scripted bullshit. So if you attempt to do it enough, you will get okay. You'll come out just fine. This is not the case for this game. It's nothing but you run into the room, he does a charge attack possibly, or he'll immediately use his fireball in an area where you can't possibly hope to hurt him, or something of that nature. And it really, really ruins the challenge of the fight. It just makes it enraging. And that's why I call it a rage game. Hang on. And there's something else I must address that I very much hate, because you're about to see it again. You've been seeing it this entire time, and I don't know how annoyed you are with it at this point. Unskippable cutscenes. Every time I die to this thing, I have to watch that fucking little cutscene about it being Alexander. I already know it's Alexander. I've died to this thing 400 times maybe at this point. I don't need to know it's fucking Alexander again. I hate games that do that make you watch the same cutscene over and over and over again and not give you an option to skip it. For example, could you imagine if in Dark Souls 2, every time you fought the last giant, you had to watch the cutscene of him waking up, looking at you, screaming, ripping his arms off of the small coral things that he's stuck on for some reason, and then sprinting at you? Imagine if every time you lost to it, even though the last giant isn't very hard, admittedly, but imagine if you had to watch it every single time, and there was no way to skip it. That would be enraging. And every boss in this game has that. You can't skip any cutscenes in it. And I hate that. The reason I bring it up is just more for if someone's watching this and they happen to be making a game, or even the developer for some fucking reason sees this, they in the future will make their cutscenes skippable. I know you did a lot of work on it, but it's okay for us not to see it. Now, this is a bit of a... Well, I just fucked up. Okay, so, fun fact. You ever sit in front of a TV screen recording something, and you accidentally click the wrong fucking button that you've been recording for 15 minutes? You click the wrong button, and it doesn't even give you an option. It doesn't say, like, hey, are you sure you don't want to, like, save your fucking talking you've been doing for 15 minutes? It just immediately goes like, and you immediately have to record everything that you just said. That puts me in a really good mood. Anyway, so yes, as I said before, this was kind of a smash cut, just kind of randomly, to the Kidder boss fight, because I found the O-ball for him as well. So I thought, maybe he was the first boss, he would be a little bit easier. And actually, the thing about Kidder himself, in his redone form, he's actually well designed, unlike Alexander, and that's the main reason why I'm even showing him in the first place. Sorry, I have to kind of readjust because, God, it got really hot in my apartment for some reason. Probably because I've been sitting here for, like, I want to say 40 minutes talking into a microphone, and I fucked up clicking a button, and it means I have to completely re-record it, which is enraging, but I'm not going to stay on about it. Whatever, you click a wrong button, you click a wrong button. Anyway. Sorry, I had an itch. So, Kidder, he's actually well designed, and the reasons why he's well designed, well, at first he won't seem well designed, because admittedly, I fought him upwards for 3 hours, and I'm obviously rage killing myself because I wasn't doing very well. You're gonna see that a couple times. I admit that there's more than enough times that I'm playing this, and I just say fuck it, and I kill myself. Anyway, like I was saying, so the things about Kidder that are actually well designed is the fact that he is actually predictable. He has a pattern and something that you can, like, get accustomed to. He doesn't have a random element like enemies spawning. He just is himself, and that's good. But on top of that, he does something else that Alexander completely got wrong, and you heard me bitch about it for like 5 minutes, and that's the spikes. I know you see them right there, and you're like, well, he has spikes, but why would you possibly like the fact that there are spikes in this room? The main reason why I actually like the spikes is for 2 reasons. One, Kidder doesn't move around the room, so he is not... So, what I'm trying to say is, Alexander moved around the room, and he was able to go through the spikes like they were nothing. Kidder doesn't actually move at all, so he doesn't have a bullshit thing where he's able to touch the spikes and you're not allowed to. So, for me, that's a plus. I like something like that. The other thing about Kidder is his patterns. He has discernible patterns that you can use and exploit. Admittedly, they're very fast and require pinpoint precision. I can't get past that enough. You have to be fucking perfect to be dodging his shit. And you might be seeing that I'm able to dodge a lot of his attacks pretty well. That's because when I was fighting Kidder, it took me upwards 3.5 hours to actually beat his ass. And let me explain that. So, you're watching like the last 15 minutes of me attempting to fight this little bastard, and he took so long to figure out. There were so many mechanics I was unclear about when I was fighting this bastard, and mainly the fact of a spell sword. At the time, I didn't know what a spell sword was. I didn't own it as a discernible perk, so most of the time, I didn't know anything. So... that giant sword that I'm summoning, I didn't know I had that ability for about an hour and a half, maybe. And then I randomly clicked triangle just for the sake of clicking it to see maybe I had like a shield, it was just invisible. And I summoned this giant great sword, and I thought it was really cool. But yes, that is why in the first episode I'm going to put up, I'm going to say, like, I invested in a spell sword, because spell swords are really useful. And this is where I think, personally, I got good at this game. Because having to fight Alexander and Kidder for 2 or plus hours and with these patterns really makes you good at the game. I'm not even kidding. It really helped whenever I was exploring the castle and I was like, this is not nearly as difficult as fighting those bastards. Anyway, so things that are well designed about Kidder. Number 1, the spikes. So what about the spikes, other than the fact that he can't touch them at all, that makes me like them? Actually, the thing, it's, with the spikes being there and how close he is to them, you will immediately question how the hell you're supposed to reliably get over them. And it will immediately teach you that you have separate runes for the character that you're playing as. Something I didn't realize for Alexander, like even remotely, the Alexander fight. But for Kidder, you do. Because if you don't realize that you can dash, you will never make it past those spikes without taking damage by running into Kidder. Speaking of which, I hate boss fights where if you touch an enemy, it damages you. I know why it's done. In the beginning, when video games were being made, like this is a kind of a video game lesson, I suppose. But in the beginning of video games, the reason why enemies would touch you and hurt you or whatever, it was just like a collision problem detection thing. It's also why there's knockback in video games. It's so if you got hit by an enemy, you would fly back and you wouldn't have all of your health immediately taken away. But that's a lesson of another time. Why we do it now today is literally for challenge. And I hate that. I greatly dislike it. Enemies, like, he is a giant eyeball. Look at him. He's a giant squishy eyeball that shoots blood. And I know blood really shouldn't be a weapon, but I give the credit to the video game. Whatever. It's like, if you've seen Dead Man Wonderland, you can come up with an excuse why blood is a weapon. But anyway, he is this giant squishy eyeball. There is literally no reason why if I run into him, I should be taking damage. If anything, he should be taking damage. I have spiky paldrones. I mean, look at my character. I have spikes. I'm in plate mail. Imagine an eyeball touching that shit. It would just get crushed instantly. I don't care how big the eyeball is. It's getting destroyed. Yeah. I actually just grossed myself out with my own description. Also, just a slight little cliff note. I don't know what it is about video games and their sick obsession with making eyeballs enemies. I can't explain it, but video games love doing it. But that's neither here nor there, because I want to talk about why Kidder is actually up. There I am, rage killing myself again. Excellent. Anyway, things that make Kidder actually a good well-designed boss. So his room is actually manageable. He doesn't move. But, I mean, to be fair, I'm not saying bosses can't move. However, in Kidder's case, if he was able to move, imagine how chaotic bullshit this level would be. It would be absurd. So, he has projectiles and shit that he shoots out, but all of the projectiles have patterns, and that you can learn to dodge them. Every single one. Like, I believe one of these times you will actually see me dodge almost every single projectile he throws out. And you might be noticing that attack, and that I'm dodging it. So for about 2.5 hours, I did not know how to dodge that attack. You are seeing the end of whenever I was doing this. Whenever I had... Nope, and sometimes I still get hit by it because I can't reliably, like, guess how long the projectiles are going to shoot out because the game's an asshole occasionally. Anyway, so you notice that he shoots this projectile. And this is... For like, I don't know, the first 2 hours I was playing, I thought it was fucking impossible. And here I am just rage killing myself again because that was a horrible start and there's no reason to continue. And did you see that? He used the same attack 4 times in a row. Which is bullshit. Having an enemy use an attack 4 times in a row is ridiculous. That's not even fair. Especially if it's an incredibly annoying move that they can spam. That is absurd. And that's kind of the luck base of why Kidder's boss fight can be seen as very bad. He will just spam moves over and over and over again, and sometimes it's literally impossible to dodge the attack. I swear. Like, I've tried to dodge at times, and it just doesn't fucking work. But that's the worst thing about Kidder is occasionally, I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Kidder, Kiter, I'm sure someone's gonna tell me how to pronounce it eventually. Maybe I'll look it up on Wikipedia or something. I don't know. Actually, yeah, I'm probably gonna look it up on Wikipedia. Fuck it. Anyway, but that's after recording or whatever. Anyway, so the reasons why Kidder is actually designed well is because he actually has a discernible pattern that you can use and exploit to actually fight him reliably. something Alexander completely lacks, because he has enemies that randomly spawn that attack you. And I do admit, like, to put it simply, if you were going to describe something to me, like, which would you rather fight? An enemy that randomly spawns creatures that will constantly hassle. Oh yeah, you might notice that I completely missed my first, because the game will randomly spawn you facing the wrong way. So here I am just rage killing myself. Anyway, I digress. If you told me which type of enemy I would rather fight, an enemy that has a set pattern that may spam the pattern but is reliably able to dodge, or an enemy that randomly spawns monsters that just can't reliably predict and do anything to, I will always pick the monster that I can have a pattern to, because that is the better designed boss. I got completely lucky dodging that. I have, like, I think even, like, I unplugged my microphone because I was so mad that I didn't want to pick up the audio I was saying, because it was just a bunch of rage and hate, and I don't like to post that kind of shit. Like, I wasn't saying anything, like, horrible. I was just like, I hate this fucking boss. This boss is horrible. I remember at some point I was imagining during the Alexander boss fight, I was imagining that every time I was fighting him with the little ninja dude, it was a different developer that I was forcing to fight the monster, and they were dying. That's really dark. I admit that's really dark, but you know what? It's what I was doing because the boss was pissing me off. Whether or not that's healthy or not, I don't know, but whatever. Anyway, Kidder himself, he's much better designed. I much prefer this because he's just better designed. He's got more predictability. You can reliably guess what he's doing. His boss room is more intuitive to guessing what your attacks and patterns and abilities are. Although one ability is just there for your detriment, but I mean, that's fine, I suppose. Just having one little thing on the character that makes it a little bit more difficult, I suppose. If everything else is reliably predictable, is fine. But one thing, I will admit that after I did these boss fights, I immediately got like 10 times better at the game. I am not even going to lie. Like, after I beat these dudes, the game became instantly a lot easier. Because I spent 6 hours attempting to beat these fucking things. 6 hours of failure. And I am just sitting here and I edited it down to 2 15-minute clips. Just for the sake of everyone else's sanity. Because if I wanted to, I could sit here and talk for 3 hours about, like, boss design. If I really, really wanted to. I wouldn't mind doing it. But I question a lot of other people's sanity. Actually, I do question if I could sit here and talk about it for 3 hours alone. I probably have to use different bosses as an example. I am getting so sidetracked. I apologize. Anyway, so yes, this is the Kidder and the Alexander boss fight. And these are the things that I discovered whenever I was kind of off camera. And I thought they were important enough to show. And I planned on showing them and being like, oh, look at this cool thing I found. But they just pissed me off so much initially that I felt that a video talking about how they are poorly designed was absolutely necessary. God, I'm sorry. I don't know how much longer I can talk. My voice is, I am sick if you can't already tell. I think I've said it, like, I don't know, 4 times. And you can probably hear me cough more than that in this video alone. But I think my voice is slowly dying because I've been talking so much about this. Anyway, I think this might be the successful attempt. Because I'm looking at, like, I mean, you guys will know. Because I ended recording this with my victory. And everyone can see at this point, there's like 54 seconds left in the video. And if you notice, look at his pattern. How many times, we're going to count how many times he does the spin attack. This one time. Versus every time I lost, how many times he does the spin attack. He does it about 3 times. Every time I lost, he used it 4 or 5 times in a row. I'm not actually sure about that. I'm just saying that because that's how it felt when I was watching this over again. But it's absurd. Oh. But yeah, this was the special episode. This was the thing I wanted to sit here and talk about, and I'm sure it's not going to come out well, but whatever. I felt I should at least try it. It's something different, because guess what? I can make 30-minute videos, and that's what I wanted to do. Anyway, thank you for watching, and I don't know what these medallions do. I'm sure they do something important. I'll figure it out because I plan on fighting every extra boss in the game and recording it and talking about how I think they're designed.